The National Veterans Legal Services Program has worked since 1981 to ensure that the government delivers to our nation's 22 million veterans, service members, and their families the benefits to which they are entitled because of disabilities resulting from their military service to our country.
One of NVLSP's strongest attributes is our ability to leverage our expertise and affect beneficially large groups of veterans and their families. We bring class actions and law reform lawsuits that affect large groups of veterans and their families.
In 2019, NVLSP secured 2 landmark class action victories on behalf of veterans and their families. The first, Godsey v. Wilkie, ordered the Veterans Administration to promptly review cases in which veterans appealed the VA's denial of their claims for benefits. Veterans often waited 3 years or more just for the VA to certify their appeals.
We drilled down on why the delays existed and found that a part of the delay was due to the VA warehousing appeals at the regional office without moving them along, just sitting on their hands. And so we were able to get the court to order them to move the case to the next level, next part of the appeal system in 120 days. So those people are going to get decisions by the Board of Veterans' Appeals much quicker than they would otherwise.
The second class action victory, Wolf v. Wilkie, ordered the VA to reimburse veterans for all of their past and future emergency medical expenses not covered by the veteran's private insurance at non-VA facilities.
There are hundreds of thousands of veterans who have emergencies, and they have to go and get emergency care at a non-VA facility. And the VA regulation said that if you have partial insurance, we're not going to reimburse you for the components that you have to pay for. These are bills that are for often tens of thousands of dollars. Given the number of people involved, the VA estimates that they'll have to pay out over the next 10 years between $2 billion and $6 billion in reimbursements.
Through our Lawyers Serving Warriors pro bono program, NVLSP also assists veterans and their families on an individual level, often with life-changing results.
Every service member and every family is unique, but at the end of the day, there's so many sacrifices that every single military family goes through.
I joined the Air Force because of my grandfathers. They both served, and some of my uncles served in the military as well, so I just wanted to follow in their footsteps. My first duty station was Aviano, Italy, and I did security forces, so I worked in restricted areas guarding the equipment and personnel.
We met in Italy. It was my first duty station as well, and I got there November '97, and we got married 6 months later. And it was literally love at first sight, which sounds so cliche and crazy, but it was.
Peter Guidry's case posed an unprecedented legal challenge.
My primary duty was protection of the airplane, so we carried an M60 machine gun. And so that was the genesis of the start of my disabilities. When you're carrying a gun that's weighing 23 pounds in one hand, your body becomes off-center. That was the beginning of my issues, on top of the bilateral knee damage running with the weapons and things like that. Just a day-to-day grind, you know, it's a physically demanding job. Have a lot of fun of it, but there is a cost to freedom and side effects for doing something you love. The injuries caused me to have spasms, so my upper and lower back completely locks up. I literally turned into Frankenstein and wasn't able to move my head left or right. It left me incapacitated for days on end that I just couldn't physically do anything but just lay there until the actual muscle spasms released.
Peter eventually moved to a position that was less strenuous, but even that new post was too much. He was deemed physically unfit for duty and discharged by the Air Force. Even worse, Peter was denied a disability retirement and the medical benefits that go with it.
He got medically discharged. He actually felt ashamed. He felt like he had let his grandfathers down. The hardest part was watching him suffer and not being able to help him. I could see the physical and I experienced the physical, but the mental was far worse. You're like 24, you have a wife, you have a home, a mortgage, and I didn't realize how scary it must have been for him to just be out. They didn't give him any retraining, they didn't give him anything.
I really didn't understand the process when I first got out the military as far as the available benefits and things of that nature.
We looked at his case and we immediately saw that there was a legal error. We then reached out to, Darryl Steensma and, his team at Latham Watkins.
We had a number of very in-depth conversations with David and Bart Stitchman about how we could best present our arguments to the court to obtain the goal of reversing the PDBR decision in Peter's case.
Darryl was amazing because 7 years ago when I was going through this, I was more affected with the stuttering and my speech patterns, so I wasn't able to communicate that well with people, and there was a lot of anger because I was in severe pain. I was just amazed of his level of compassion. It was like, did the NVLSP program prep this guy to be able to deal with people like me? Because the VA didn't treat me that kind.
The team submitted its brief to the PDBR, but was denied. Because there is no option for appealing a PDBR decision, it took the unprecedented step of appealing the ruling in federal district court.
We were in uncharted territory. Nobody had ever appealed a PDBR decision before.
The long and short of it is that the PDBR, after going there again, they finally realized that, they needed to provide Mr. Guidry a disability retirement.
When they did come back with a favorable decision, I was surprised and elated. It's not something I counted on.
That decision will allow him to receive a stipend from the military, for the rest of his life. And equally as important, it will allow him to access the military healthcare system called TRICARE. It will also allow, his spouse and, family to also have that, access as well to TRICARE.
The NVLSP program was able to actually force the military to do the right thing. They won the federal lawsuit in court and it was beyond belief. That's what's amazing about it. They did something that doesn't exist.